Hey, welcome back to the Secret Underground Lair. Today, we're going to build a garden trellis. So from the picture, you saw that there are going to be 3 panels, 2 outside panels and the center panel. The center panel is going to be a little bit taller than the outside panels. So the supports that I want to use for the center panel will come out of this piece here. This is just a little bit longer. But I'm going to start by getting some 1 by 1 inch pieces out of this piece. And that 1 by 1 inch starts about here in terms of thickness. So I'm going to run this side up against the fence and make a cut down about here. And then I'll start trimming off a couple 1 inch pieces. Probably get 3, maybe 4 out of there that we can use for both the vertical members on the outside panels, the 2 outside panel vertical members, and some of the cross pieces that'll be needed across the top and bottom. I'm going to get 2 1 inch by 1 inch pieces out of this wood, out of this, for the center member, the center section of it, out of this piece of lumber here. So let me set up the fence on the saw and get us started. All right, I got you set up with a slightly different view. Let me know what you think. And I'll set the fence to 1 inch and we'll cut off some 1 inch strips off this piece. Okay, you got a little bit of a problem here. You may have noticed that the blade isn't going to come anywhere close to this height to cut through all of that mess. So I'm scratching my head thinking what to do now. Maybe I'll make a cut this way. Back in a second. While I have this fence set to 1 inch, I might as well cut this strip we just cut off to the 1 by 1 that I'm after. Okay, decided what I'm going to do here. I've set the fence up to be 1 1/4 inches away from the blade, so I'm making a slightly wider cut. And I'm going to rip it on edge here, halfway, just to kind of cut this half off. So make one pass this way, flip the board over 180 degrees, make another pass, and that'll fall away. It appears that I needed the blade up just about a 1/16 inch more. I'm still stuck together down here, so I'm going to use a handsaw and get rid of that apart. Okay, here's a nice piece of cedar. We'll now cut this into some 1x1 bits. Okay, so we got 4 good pieces out of that. A little bit left over for, I don't know, maybe we can make some of that little bracing that we'll want between the pieces. So that, yeah, 2 of these rails will be used for the uprights. Not sure which 2 I'll use, probably these 2. This one has a lot of knots in it. And then the other 2, so 2 for the uprights on the outside and some material for the supports or cross pieces. So we'll go after this other piece of wood here. It's a little bit more tricky because there's no straight edge on it at all. And it's a little bit too long for a bed rail. But I do have something similar that'll work. That's just a long piece of a cut off from a 2x4. So I'm going to attach that onto the bottom of this and make a cut to get a straight edge. And then we'll be back in business. Already got 2 8-foot pieces of cut off from a 2x4. And I'm just going to tack these onto the bottom of the plank here that we're working with, just to keep them in place. Of course, it helps when the nail comes out. Better. And so this piece is going to go up against, this piece will go up against the fence. This piece is just here to make the piece as it sits on the table level. So, you know, I'm up by about 1/4 of an inch here. I don't want to have this side drooping down 1/4. So this is just to keep it level. I'll set the fence to 9 inches and we'll run this through. Okay, now I can set the fence up to rip these guys down to 1 1/4. Just going to check the height here, make sure I don't have the same kind of issue that I had on the last piece. So you may notice the sawsman was struggling a little bit getting through this wood. Even though it is cedar, a very light wood, this cedar is a little damp, so it gets a little bit sticky, I think, for the blade. All right, so I got these blanks cut. I cut this extra one because I noticed this guy had a pretty nasty knot up here. And actually, no, the other one. This guy has a really nasty knot through here. It goes right through the whole piece. So I don't know how good that's going to be. So I cut another one. And now what I'll do is I'll cut these to 1 1/4, then come back and trim off the rough side to 1 inch. So I thought I'd take just a second to kind of show you how this trellis is going to come together. So we're going to have the 2 center posts here, as you can see. We'll have the post that goes on the outside That'll be 16 inches apart. These are going to be 24 center to center, and another one over here 16 inches. Then on the inside of these 1 by 1, I'm going to put a 3/4 by 3/4. That leaves a 1/4 inch gap between here and here. First there'll be one on this side as well, and then be putting one on the outside of that center support. So the center is going to appear to be about 2.5 inches thick. And of course there'll be one of those over here on the far side as well. Then what we'll be doing is putting in, have some 1/2 inch by 1/8 inch strips that I've cut. So we'll have 4 that run up and down the middle section, like so. Of course, in addition to these pieces going across vertical, there's equivalent sections going across the bottom with that 3/4 by 3/4 inch piece here. Same at the top. And then we'll be, within these 4 stringers running north and south, or up and down, we'll be weaving in these guys across the entire piece. So we'll wind up being a grid, a woven grid that can be tacked into these 3/4 by 3/4 inch pieces. All right, I have mapped out on these 2 pieces. These are going to be the cross pieces. I'm going to cut them to length, and I've marked out where I'm going to make the notches for the lap joint. But I won't do that yet. And I've marked out on our vertical pieces the length. So I'm just going to cut everything to length first. Then we'll figure out where on the vertical pieces we want the notches to be for the lap joint. And then we'll cut all the lap joints. So the location of the top lap joint is easy. It's at the top of the short pieces, so that's no problem at all. I can mark that. It's the bottom one that I want to be careful of, and I'm expecting to put that 12 inches off the ground. So I'll make a mark there, and we'll cut that at 12 inches. This is our top. That will come 12 inches off the ground. It's going to be just off camera. And when I say 12 inches off the ground, I mean the bottom will be 12 inches off. So I'm going to do the cross pieces at the same time so that I get everything done together. They line up. And I think I will clamp these together just so there's no movement. Just using a piece of 1/2 inch MDF here to set the blade height. Okay, we'll start hogging this out. Might be good to do a test fit on those before I take them apart. A snug fit, but it'll work. And another snug fit, but it'll work. Okay, I'm gonna keep that. Kind of wondered if I would have regrets not using these clamps. Instead, I'd have regrets using the C clamps, and yes, I did. The adjustable slide kept moving down and getting caught in the webbing of the saw. Should have seen that one coming. Okay, now all 4 of these pieces are going to have the dado or rabbit or lap joint, what do we want to call it, in the same spot. So I'm going to clamp them and cut them all together. I heard a thunk, just going to see what that was. So you may have noticed this cardboard that I had behind the back of the saw. This is a temporary thing that I put in place for dust collection. I guess the concept worked fine, but the implementation of cardboard is not good. So I'll have to upgrade that to something a little more permanent and firm. Conceptually though, it works well. Means I'm going to get a little more sawdust flying around here, I think. All right, I'm just going to clean those up with the sharp chisel. Okay, I've got all of our little inside pieces cut and squared off on one end, so I have a nice clean end on all of them, all 6. I'm just going to mark them to 64 inches and then we'll clamp them and cut them. Alright, I'm going to lay this back up on the table saw just to see how they fit. It's crazy, I built the work table over there and I always have it full of stuff for some reason. I don't know why it's always full of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to test to see how snug a snug fit this really is. Maybe a little too snug. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the saw here, just take a smidge off that. And smidge is my technical term. And I'm going to make this adjustment just by hand. In other words, I'm not clamping the pieces together. I may regret that. About a 1/16 of an inch off those pieces. That's a snug fit that I like. Yep, I'm going to take that. Now you may be wondering, how are you going to attach these things? Well, I'm going to use some 1 1/4 inch nails out of my nail gun here. Oops, you can't see what I'm pointing to. So I'm just going to use my nail gun and use some 1 1/4 inch nails to drive these pieces together. No, they're 1.5, sorry. These are 1.5 inch nails. That'll be good. Put up a video the other day. I was talking about, I was filling up some rough oak and wormy maple. This is an example of that wood, that wormy maple. I'm not convinced it's wormy maple. I'm convinced it's some strange exotic wood. No idea what. And the reason that I suspect it's not maple is my experience with maple is when you put a nail in it, especially a ring nail, it's almost impossible to get that nail out. And I found this wood was a lot more forgiving and would release the nail a lot easier than the maple I had used in the past seemed to do. So have a look at that video and tell me what kind of wood you think that is. what I think is wormy maple. I'm not sure it is. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up this 3/4 by 3/4 inch strip to be flush with the back edge, or sorry, actually it's going to be the front edge of the leg. The trellising members that go across are going to be in the groove that's left on the back. That is a tight fit. I'm going to have to give that a little tap with a hammer. So, as mentioned, I'm going to tack these cross members in place so they don't keep falling out on me and causing me grief. I'm going to do the pieces inside here and inside there at the top, and then I'm going to lay in the grid work on the center section. It'll just be easier to do that if I have access to it from the sides, rather than try and put the sides on first, and that's going to be a long reach. So I'm going to do these little guys first. Start by getting a square edge. And we'll tack these guys in. Now we are ready to start. I can cut some pieces for the cross pieces and cut the length for the vertical ones. So let me get the vertical pieces in first and we'll figure out how long they need to be. I don't think 64 inches, that's the length of these little guys here. I don't think that's going to be right because these pieces are going to bend a little bit all the way down from the weaving of the cross pieces. So they're going to be a little bit longer than 64. Therefore, what I'm thinking to do is to tack them in place at the far end there, the bottom, and then cut them off when I finish the last cross piece here. And of course the question now is, what is the spacing that I need here? So I want this to be equally spaced. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. And I have a distance of 21 3/8. So 21 3/8 divided by 5 is 4 1/4 inches. That's the spacing between these guys. So, yeah, turn the camera off to figure out that using a neat little app that I found on my phone. It's a fraction calculator, just a brilliant piece of code. What I've got here is I've got my Johnny clamps set up to hold these little 1/2 inch guys. They can slide back and forth a little bit. So they're set at the 4 1/4 mark. What I'm going to do is tack these guys at this end in to this piece. Next I want to figure out the spacing here. So before I tack anything, I'll figure out the spacing of our horizontal pieces, and I should probably cut them to length before I go crazy. So I'll be back when I have that done. Okay, I got all our cross pieces cut to length, which I'm hoping is the right length. And I'm just going to now tack these guys in on the bottom. So I have marked the center of each of these, and I just don't want that wood to split. Okay, let's begin weaving. I've also marked the lines here. These are 6 1/4 inches apart, moving up the trellis. I'm not going to tack these in place yet. I think I'm going to start tacking these just to avoid them floating around a little bit. I seem to want to do that. I'm going to leave that one alone. I'll tack them kind of one beyond, if that makes any sense. All right, just installing this left side, or right side. It's going to be the right side, this one. And I just put in the 1-inch nails here, so I can tack this into place. Okay, and now we'll switch out again to the 1.5-inch nails, so we can put in this cross piece, or the inside support. Okay, now we need the pieces that go in here, so just measure and cut them. We're going to put 3 vertical rails in this side. They'll be a slightly different slightly closer together, not much. But we'll do the same number of horizontal going all the way up. So I'm wanting these guys to be 3 5/16 from this edge to each center. And it's always important to measure from the same side. So up at the top, I measured from this outside edge across. I'm measuring the same from the outside edge across here. So again, I'm going to tack these guys in place. And before I do that, I got to cut the short ones for the middle. And for this, I think I'm just going to set up the fence with the block. That's my first pour. Okay, we are now good to assemble the left side trellis. Just gonna slip my Johnny clamps on here. I'm not using these clamps to hold the piece in place, it's just simply to provide a guide. I can still move this up and flip it around, but I know that if it's sitting in there, it's good. You can probably tell from where you are that this piece and this piece are both warped, kind of curve around. In fact, they all curve around a little bit. So I'll have to be careful of that as I'm putting in the cross pieces. So I'm going to start by tacking these in. I do need to measure here first. Didn't do that, 6 1/4 apart. For this side, I can go off these ones, but over here I need to have a measurement. Okay, good. Okay, so that is the left side done. So I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. Don't need to stick around and watch me do all that one again. So I'll do that side and I'll come back when I have that complete. Okay, we've got all the 3 panels completed. I'm going to go set it up in place just to kind of get a visual feel for it. And still have to figure out what we want to do at the very top, a little portico of some sort. But at least we'll take a look and see what it looks like in place. So that's the trellis kind of in place. Little portico on the top, as I mentioned, something to just kind of accent it there. But nice 3 panels, lots of room for growing things. So I'll take it back in the shop and we'll finish off the top. Okay, do a little bit of winging it here to figure out how this top is going to work. I knew I kind of wanted to make a peak on it, so I thought, well, what I did is I just kind of laid a piece of wood up here to kind of get an idea for what would be roughly a good angle. And that's what I get. So a nice fit there, comes up to a peak here. This is just being glued together. And I'll probably just do a little bit of trimming on it. All right, I'm going to drill a couple pivot holes to get this put in place. I've just clamped some wood underneath to hold this flush with the face. Got it lined up where I like it. And I'll just drill a hole through here. My bit is only going to go a little bit. I'm going to take this piece away and then finish drilling the hole deeper. I have some very long screws for this. It's not really that I want long screws, but it's all I have available at the moment. That's our little top piece nailed in. Now I'm going to take a 3/4 by 3/4 inch piece and put that all around the perimeter here. This is the same kind of operation I did to get these pieces in place. So I know to make a cut there, and I know to make a cut there. I'll make 2 of these. That'll give me these guys. So I'll have 2 of these from here, and 1 for there. So I'm going to take this whole business back off the table so I can get to the saw and make these cuts. You can see it's a lot of back and forth, up and down. Okay, I've got the saw set up. The miter set at 23 degrees. That's the angle that we established with the T-bevel. So I'm just going to make this cut, and then before straightening out the miter, I'm going to make the cuts on this piece. Okay, we got our pieces and we go like that, like that, like that, and like that. So I'll put the trellis back up on the table and we'll put this in. Okay, sorry about that. I thought I had the camera on. Maybe I didn't. So I got these pieces now mounted after cutting them on the table saw. I just got some pieces here to put into these the top frame to continue with the trellis work. I just cut these off using the oscillating saw. And now I'm just going to go get some short nails and tack them in. And there we have it. I'll just trim up this last little joint that I've got here, a little spline that I put in to hold these 2 guys together. And then we'll take it out, see what it looks like. Okay, I'll bring you back for a shot in its final place. And there it is, garden trellis. Project in a day. How about that? Have to figure out how I'm going to mount it. I don't want to necessarily tack it to the fence, but I'm thinking some steel stakes in behind and we'll tether it to the stakes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.